Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm making Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle. He's like one of my favourite characters. I'm literally going to start off by saying I made a huge mistake here. Right at the beginning. If you're going to do a book cover and you ever want to get the clay off of the book cover, cover your book in some like tin foil first. You'll see why later on. I made things very difficult for myself. But yeah, if you're going to make a book cover, don't do what I've done, which is sculpt straight onto the book. You're gonna have a fun time if you do. Calcifer lives in a fireplace, which seems like the logical place for a fire demon to live. So I'm going to create the fireplace first. Calcifer's fireplace has like this really nice sun embellishment behind it. It's a metal plate thing that has like the sun on it. I have no idea about fireplaces. Don't know what it's for, but it's very pretty. So I'm going to make that first. So I'm literally just going to create like the sun's face. I'm going to first start with the eyes. I do create like the forehead, and I do sculpt the nose as well, but I'm not really going to show you the nose because I literally cut the nose out to put Calcifer in. So yeah, I did a lot of sculpting on this face that I didn't really need to do because I ended up taking most of it off. To build up the brow, I start by giving my son like this weird unibrow. And then I kind of Frankenstein my way around. It kind of helps me if I just add little bits of clay at a time, and then I can sort of take away stuff if I need to, or add more, as I do in this case. Just so it's, I don't know, it's easier for me to create the shape that I want by adding little bits at a time instead of, you know, trying to create the whole face all at once in one giant block. I do the same with the cheeks. Then I add on the tiny nose. That it's pointless. You'll see the tiny nose in a minute. I get halfway through sculpting the nose and then realise that I'm not going to need it, and which is also why I don't sculpt the mouth either, because Sarah's brain actually kicked in. This is me showing you how I made the eyes off screen mostly, just because I'm helpful like that. I like to make sure that you guys can't actually see what I'm doing, because, you know, that would be sensible. To make the sunflowery petally thingy mabobs that I'm sticking on now, I literally rolled out one giant snake of clay, and then using the cubes on my cutting board, I literally just measured 2 centimeters for each bit, cut it down so that they would all be exactly the same size, because I know what I'm like. I would have ended up with loads of different shapes and sizes. Then I went on to make Calcifer's log, which is literally just a ton of tin foil squished up into a log shape and then covered in polymer clay. Nice and easy, although this is where it started making life very difficult for me, because I sculpted it on the book rather than onto a flat surface that would have been helpful later on. I'm I'm just going to use my pin tool to create the age rings of the log, because I'm going to put like a, I don't know, a barky rim around the top. It's best to sculpt that first, because for once in my life I'm trying to think things through, and instead of making it difficult for me and doing it later when I've added this piece, I thought I would try and think smart for a change and do it first. As I started making my log look loggy, it occurred to me that Calcifer kind of needs to sit on an area of the log that looks a little bit more crispy. So I just used my spoon tool to dig out a little section, and then I'm going to add a load of like little bits of broken wood or charred wood. Well, that's the look I'm going for anyway. So I added all these tiny little bits, which later on I'll try and paint like emberish colours underneath it and create those large, dark, lumpy bits for Calcifer to sit on. There was a thought process behind it. I'm not entirely sure if I won with that thought process, but that was the idea I was going for. As you can probably tell, I am using some tin foil to create Calcifer's body, and as you can probably also tell, that I've cut out most of the sun's face and putting that in. And as you can probably also tell on top of that, I didn't record any of it because I didn't press the record button again. The polymer clay that I'm attaching to Calcifer, I'm using quite thick portions of clay this time round, and that's mainly because to create the fire I'm going to need quite a bit of clay to manoeuvre around to give it that flamey feel. So I'm using thickish bits of clay. To mark out the eyes, I'm literally just using a circular cutter, and then I'm going to use a rubber shaper around the edges just to soften them up so it doesn't look like his eyes have been gouged out with a circular cutter. I also built up the front of Calcifer's face using a separate piece of clay, which is how I come out with like this perfect smile. You'll see in a second that I mark out this beautiful smile, and then I cut it out, and underneath is perfectly flat. Even I am surprised at how I did that. I am very happy it worked out that way. Look at that, it's perfect. And then I went on to make the flame shape. So to do that, I literally use a ball stylus, and I kind of dig the ball stylus into the clay and then drag it upwards. Normally I wouldn't tell people to drag their clay around because you end up with like these weird horrible chunky bits and all the rest of it, but to make fire it's really good to sort of just dig in and then pull up with your ball stylus, and using lots of swirly motions at the same time. This is me just deciding whether Calcifer should have a tongue or not. I'm literally just looking at it going, yes, it will have a tongue. Typically Calcifer doesn't have a tongue. My Calcifer became cute because he has a tongue. Then it was on to making his little hands, which is literally just a stub of clay with 3 more little stubs attached at the end. And then attaching that to him and giving those little stubby cute arms the flame effect ball stylus treatment again. I would just like to say now that banners are a ball ache to make. They look so simple, but just to get them to look equal on both sides it's just ridiculously difficult for me. Don't know why. I can sculpt loads of different things, banners or anything that needs to be equal. I don't like doing it. I'm sure most people would be able to sculpt banners much faster than I did. I took ages doing it. Calcifer is from the film The Howls Moving Castle, so I thought I'd better add something of Howls in there, you know, as a nod to his film. So I ended up adding some raven feathers because Howl turns into like this weird man-bird thing during the film. Um, so yeah, a couple of little raven feathers at the top was my nod to Howl. And then the war of removing this from the book began. I decided to leave in the majority of my fights so that you could see. I ended up using a ruler to semi-gouge him off of the book. So I ended up having to do repairs once he was on the baking tray, which, you know, is extra time. So just wrap your book in foil, save you an awful lot of time. And then I put him into the oven for a bake. But he looked a little lonely. So I decided that he needed some eggs and bacon. So I started with sculpting some eggs, which is pretty simple. It's a squoosh of clay with a circle in the middle, and you've got yourself an egg. Just to add a little bit of detail, I did put on some extra heavily fried eggs because, you know, if Calcifer is going to hand out the curse of may all your bacon burn, then we should perhaps have burnt bacon. I also noticed that the bacon in the films is very square. So I went with the very square route because that is how it looks in the film. British bacon does not look like this. It's not square. I'm not quite sure why it's square, but it looks square there. But yeah, then I did that, put it back in the oven, and it was on to painting. I am using my usual Arteza paints and my Vallejo paints as well. And I'm going to just start with the base coat. I used black gesso as the base coat, and all the areas that I need to be kind of light and bright I have white gessoed. And then I went on to painting. So I will leave you with the painting montage. Once I finished my painting, I decided to make my egg look a little bit more eggy. Just by using a little bit of UV resin. I just sort of slathered that on, makes the egg look shiny. Slightly more egg looking, I guess. And then it was time to glue my book onto the cover. I just want to take a minute to show you the cutest little glue ever. It's so small. It might be small, but it was really, really strong glue though, so it still does the job. And then I attached it to my very heavily damaged book because I had to literally cut it off. But it's on there and you'll never know because beautiful Calcifer is hiding all the damage. And I guess that's everything on this video then, guys. I will see you in the next one. Please do take a minute to like, comment, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff, and I will see you later, guys. Bye.